We're back on another edition of the RTF show. It is your host, your proper host, not the two imposters that were with you last week. Michael Rose here with Brother John. What's up, Brother John?
Ongoing investigation. Can't really comment. We were hacked last week. We'll get down to the bottom of it. There's a lot of slander thrown my way, particularly. But, you know, it's still an ongoing investigation. I do not know how they got into our account. But
yeah. Very, very secure account. We're not sure, it's possible that they could have brute forced the password just by knowing us. But I'm just not sure how that happened. So yeah, we're gonna move on onwards and upwards.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, it might be an inside job, but
it could be. The league office is in shambles right now as we investigate the hacker. But we promise, unlike the Supreme Court's investigation into the leak of the Dobbs case, we will come to a conclusion here that finds who the hacker is, and that person will be punished. Looking at you, Samuel. So we're back though. It's week 14. I can't believe it. The season is, well, it's over for some of us, me. It is on the brink of being over for some other of us, which we're going to get into today in quite a big way. It's a wild playoff picture. We've got 7 teams that could shuffle in and out of the playoffs based on how this week's games break. The only two sure things are John Rose's team and Peter Kramer's team. Those two teams sit atop their division. They are locked. They have clinched the 1 or the 2 seed and will be making their way into the playoffs. But both other divisions, both the Hallis and the Dicka division, are up for grabs, as well as those wild card spots. There are 2 teams I think that are holding on to them pretty tight, but it's last weekend really shook things up.
It did, yeah. Before we get into this, give a little behind the scenes look at how we put this together. Mike was working all day long on putting together what the playoff picture would look like. And for those that are watching and not just listening, I was able to get a candid shot here of Mike putting together the playoff picture.
That's exactly what it looked like. I was huffing dirts, stringing strings across pieces of paper, writing out what I thought was the name Pepe Silvia, but may have actually been Pennsylvania. It was a harrowing day in my office trying to figure out who is in the playoff picture. The big thing from last week, there were some huge victories. I think we can, and one huge loss that really shook things up quite a bit. You want to start with the victory, or the victories, or you want to start with the loss?
I mean, yeah, let's start with the victory. I mean,
the big victories that did it. So Josh desperately needed a win, facing in his division what looked like a possibly insurmountable obstacle, in that Bill has lucked into playing Charlie twice with the season on the line. What many assumed would be a sure victory, it meant Josh was going to need to win to be able to keep pace with Bill. And Josh held up his end of the bargain. He did it. Huge victory. A little, a nice capper to the end of the Decatur Staley's season, officially knocking us out of the playoffs. But Josh overcame Lamar Jackson going down.
Yeah, huge.
Which when I saw that, a little flutter of hope went into my went through my heart, but it was not to be. Josh ultimately gets a huge day from AJ Brown. Keenan Allen, former Staley himself, comes through in a big way against his old team, with really what was some late heroics, second half heroics, a touchdown in there to seal the deal on what ultimately was an 18-point day. And then perhaps the biggest key contributor being Dallas's defense to really, put the icing on the cake for Josh.
Yeah, I mean, I think that wins it really for him. I mean, that and AJ Brown's 2 touchdowns, 119 yards for sure. But Dallas's defense coming up huge with 3 interceptions, 1 touchdown, and 2 fumble recoveries. I mean, that's going to carry you on most weeks if you get decent production elsewhere, which he didn't with Jackson, didn't with Pittman. And then, with Mark Andrews, fairly pedestrian day, all things considered, with Huntley came in after Jackson went down. And I mean, the good news for Josh is, he left a lot of points on the bench that he can maybe turn to. Looked like Swift had a really good day. I know his usage was the highest it's been since, the middle of the season or early mid-season. So he might have someone there that he can, not have to play Pittman. He can play Swift going into rivalry week. I haven't seen who he picked up to replace Lamar Jackson, but I'm sure we'll look at that.
It is one Derek Carr. So Josh did not have a backup quarterback on his roster.
No.
Picked up Derek Carr. This might be kind of a matchup play for him the rest of the season, depending on Lamar's health and when he's able to come back. I'm sure Josh is hoping this is a 1 week, play, but the Rams are terrible. So I don't mind the Derek Carr pickup. It's possible he has a big
I've been there once before.
Yeah.
Season on the line, need to just win 1 game. You start Derek Carr on a Thursday night. He gets 2 points. That's it was 2 years ago when he got injured and it was 2 minutes into the game, pulled a hammy. Never again. But good luck, Josh. The issue with that is Derek Carr puts up a dud tomorrow night. He's staring at that for the next 3 days. Thinking about his life choices. And then will Bill be able to beat Charlie? Will he? We all thought so last week, but
yes. Which hold it before we get there. I want to work our way down the list here and talk about the other kind of big victories before we get to that game. Another team that had to have a win to stay alive. Kelly beating Ken. Ken could have sealed the division with win last week. Unable to do it. Pickens just another, in what's been a very up and down season for him, just another terrible day. Kenneth Walker, obviously, the injury limits him there. We'll see going forward. We'll see what happens with Kenneth.
Sounds like he probably won't play this week, but
it seems like he's on the fence. So, but got big days outside of that. I mean, if one of those 2 guys performs, Ken likely gets the victory. But Kelly able to, just like Josh, able to overcome an exit from her QB, 2 points from Jimmy Garoppolo. But on the back of the Sun God's big day and, some decent performances across the board from Delvin Cook and McKinnon and Peoples-Jones, she was able to cobble together this victory, and it's a huge one. It's going to keep Kelly in the race here.
Yeah, totally. I mean, especially with Kyler Murray, Marquise Brown, James Conner all on bye. It's definitely pretty impressive that she was able to pull that win out. and a pedestrian day from Hawkinson and Patterson, I'm sure that'll bounce back. Thankfully, she didn't
Also,
have to go to the waiver wire to get a quarterback to replace Garoppolo too.
yeah, I mean, also like made the right play at wide receiver, which was huge for her because she's got Cortland Sutton sitting on her bench there. And
Oh,
Cortland Sutton, I mean, he's a guy I'm sure she considered starting Sutton last week. And
yeah, super
thank God
smart.
she didn't.
Yeah.
So she's still, Kelly, still alive, still in it. We'll get into what she needs to happen to make the playoffs in a minute. The other big victory, two other ones I just want to touch on real quick from last week. Steve, this one we don't need to spend too much time on. He beat the Bomboleros, something he should have done. Fitz's team 3-10, had a miserable season.
It's crazy
But
though. Yeah.
It's a
Bill, I
good
mean,
team. Like Fitz's team is
yeah.
okay. He's got some talent down there, but really, it's a team he should have beat.
Totally.
So
I mean,
he beat him.
it is amazing that Steve sold off his team and then is still right here,
Yep.
playing his heart out, fighting for the playoffs by getting the win, putting himself in a position to make the playoffs this coming week.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's great. Love to
Mark
see
Chase
it.
coming back is huge. I think, that
Yep.
really, I mean, I'm a little nervous to be honest with that situation going on. I mean, he's getting his guys healthy. You've never seen. I mean, Christian Watson's playing unbelievably, and he's starting both Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, and it's that's viable. Those guys are putting up double-digit fantasy points.
It took a while for the Bengals to get going this year, but I mean, I guess like last year, right? Last year it took them a little while to come around, but they've again turned into a juggernaut.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, last big victory, and this was kind of a real defining matchup for the season. Two teams that have been battling it out within their division. Granted, under what was early on looked like it would be the division favorite and ended up being the division favorite. But Peter and Alec have what I think are the two best teams, maybe outside of you and the Mecca Peter. And they played each other last week. And it should have been a close game. Would have liked it to have been a close game. It was not a close game. The Alpha Peter showed up, put the smack down on Big Head, and put themselves in pole position to make the playoffs. Like they are in a great spot to make the playoffs now. And just had everybody show up last week. Really, all their guys were doing it. Devontae Adams, huge day. Tyreek Hill, huge day. And then just decent performances the rest of the way around. So,
I mean, Peter could have started his entire bench and beat Alec. I mean, if you go down,
he could have
go down 95 points on his bench. I mean,
Peter, Peter had Lockett, McLaurin on his bench. It's and the San Fran D. So
he's almost got a starting lineup there, just missing a running back.
Yeah,
and he still would have beat him.
Big win for Sullivan.
Big win over the Big Head.
Ultimately, I don't think like well, we'll talk about that more in a minute. Okay. Let's get into what was really the defining game of the week. Yeah. Round one of the Charlie Bill matchup.
Mm-hmm.
Bill talks a lot of shit.
Bill does. A lot of that late night locker room talk.
Yeah. Bill could have all but assured himself a playoff berth by winning this game last week. And maybe could have even put himself in a better position had he just scored more points than he actually ended up scoring. Like we'll get into later what the points are gonna look like for him. But instead, he shits the bed. Just a terrible day across the board for Bill. You know, Josh Allen, fairly pedestrian numbers, and
Thursday
then
night.
just
Yeah.
down, that Thursday night game against New England, which the Bills like ultimately looked pretty good in that game, I think, but it just
They didn't need to do much. I mean,
not
they just
fantasy
didn't
wise.
need to do much. So, might as well run the ball.
And Charlie was able to capitalize.
Yeah, a couple big days. Zeke getting a touchdown. Them in that blowout game. Oh my God, that was an incredible performance by Dallas. But as Jerry Jones says, and maybe this is the motto of Creed and stuff now. We go as Zeke goes, and seems when Zeke does well, Charlie does well. So. Zeke continues to have big days, then we could see Charlie play spoiler there for a second week in a row. But
Charlie doing this, while starting Kenneth Gainwell, really to me, it kind of like puts the and Daniel Jones, like put it, Daniel Jones, starting Kenneth Gainwell, just it's great. I love to see it. So
Jones has been serviceable, I will say. I mean,
yeah, he's been fine. But when he's matched up across from Josh Allen, you just assume that quarterback battle is going a different way, and it did not this week. So
I mean, isn't Daniel Jones kind of like I don't know, like the dollar store knockoff brand of chips that of Josh Allen,
I thought that was Mitch Trubisky.
That might be, but I mean, I think Daniel Jones is about isn't he? He's kind of bigger, taller,
yes.
like Josh Allen. Runs, just not really good, but I mean, at least Charlie dropped Mercedes Lewis finally. So,
big ups to Charlie. This was a huge victory. Bill has another shot.
I think he's going to
we'll get to in a minute. But it's a big victory for Charlie. It's a moral victory for Charlie. He's 3-10, so it has no bearing on his season whatsoever. But big ups to Charlie. Okay. I pulled up the wrong thing here. That's the rundown. I want to get to.
I mean, the only other game that we didn't cover last week was Peter and I.
Nobody gives a shit about that game.
I did beat Peter. Now I did beat Peter.
It's completely lost. Nobody cares.
If Peter loses against Ken this week, then I have a chance to take league's best record for the first time. Someone else didn't hold it.
That would be great. I wish it wasn't you, but that would be great that it wasn't Peter that did it. But Peter ultimately, like he had a down week. I mean, it was a bad week. Rolling the dice, going with Deshaun Watson, really kind of crazy.
It made no sense.
A tad bit, tad bit. I don't know, Peter. Just not.
I think the
not
word
a
you're
good
looking
look.
for, Mike, is hubris.
Yeah.
Hubris is the word that you're looking for.
Not a good look. Not a good look. So I'm glad it came back to bite him in the ass. It was it was a rough day for him though. he had the wrong Miami wide receiver. Kelsey had a bad day. Chubb's been up and down the second half of the season, really more down than up. So it's a rough day. Peter looks vulnerable. I'll say that. Like Peter's team, I think, while it on paper is the best constructed team, is certainly not what it was last year, this year. He's beatable, which you just showed. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in the playoffs here. I think the bye week is a big thing for him. It's helpful. But I definitely think Peter is beatable. So, okay. Let's talk about the some of the news around the league. One of those being this little number right here. For those of you listening at home and not watching, the number I'm pointing to is the 0 in Steve's waiver wire budget line. I guess Steve just figured his season was over. Well, we know he figured that. He decided that his season was over when, well, I'm not sure if
I
it
did
was
talk
before.
to him. So I did talk to him.
Was it
decided
before or
to go-
after he traded for the best quarterback in the league?
It was after. So
It was after. Okay, but it was after that, but also after he had sold a number of his best players.
Yeah. So I mean, I kind of like his move. I like his move. Why Jalen Hurts is going to be expensive next year. So it would have been expensive next year. So I think, going out and securing him early with not his money makes a lot of sense. But I did talk to him. So we went back and took a look at this. And so it was the week before, right before week 10, trade deadline, everything like that, right? So he was rostering Dallas Goedert, Logan Thomas, and who else is on his team? Scroll down.
Hold on. I was going to go back to week 10. To the week 10 Steve Blue Barracudas.
Okay. So yeah, he's got.
You said it was week 9 or week 10?
Week 10. So he's got Goddard. Who's he got on there? Goddard. So the week after week 10, I think. What's week 11?
Week 11 would be after week 10.
Is when he picked up Christian Watson. He's got Dallas Goedert, Robert Tonyan, and
Goddard had gotten hurt.
Yeah, let's see here. Goddard had gotten hurt. He had Tonyan. When did he pick up Logan Thomas then?
I think it was a week later.
I thought he spent all of his money on Christian Watson, though.
He may have. I don't know. I'd have to go
November
back
20,
and look, but he did pick up Logan Thomas.
He did. On a dollar bid.
So he must have one more dollar left over, which he used on Logan Thomas.
Yeah.
I guess a smart move at the time. I mean, he got, no points out of Logan Thomas.
So then,
but
when did he pick up? Who else is on his roster right now?
This is riveting podcasting.
I'm trying to figure. He picked up someone else. I can't remember who.
I mean, the moral of this story, for those of you who have not been paying attention, is that Steve does not have any money left. He also does not have a tight end that he can play this week, despite rostering 3 tight ends at the moment. He does not have a tight end he can play. Goddard is hurt, still on IR. Logan Thomas.
Okay, so Tonyan was on his team. Logan
Yes.
Thomas picks up Logan Thomas. I think it'd be a good play, not realizing
They
that
have the
both
same
Logan
bye.
Thomas and Tanyan have the same bye, and it was right after Goddard got hurt. So
Yep.
spending all but one of his dollars on, or all but a couple of his dollars on Christian Watson. He didn't think it would gas the way it did. So
it certainly did turn out to bite him in the ass. So Steve is in the unique position again of not having a tight end to start this week, which is unfortunate. And I wish that weren't the case for a team that's on the playoff bubble. But there aren't really any outs for him here.
no, certainly not to get another tight end.
No. So Steve's gonna have to leave that spot empty. John and I will confer kind of offline as to whether that results in some sort of penalty going forward, as we saw with Charlie's team, regarding not starting a player. But
I mean, the penalty is generally associated with anti-competitive behavior, which is either just not starting, not.
That is correct.
Which
I don't think this is anti-competitive behavior.
But I think I have a long list of proposed changes, aka complaints, suggestions by league managers that we will go through in the off season.
Yeah, I think
so there's some ways to remedy this, or at least flush out some rule changes that could provide more flexibility, considering we do require $1 bids right now. So yeah.
So I think I agree with you. Although I don't think it's not unique to require a $1 bid on
no, I think
players.
just
I'm in another league that requires $1, at least $1 to pick up a player. So while I like that, and we can kind of discuss this at length in the off season.
Not necessarily removing the $1 bid, but maybe permitting trades associated with only fab
with money. Yes,
with money involved going later.
Yeah.
Which ultimately would help teams that are out of it.
Yeah.
Collect even more money. Like they can better their position next year even further.
However, I do just want to say in regards to Steve's team, because initially my thought was like, man, he's got a lot of players on buys, and that sucks because what really sucks is that the NFL fucked up the schedule so much that in week 14, which the NFL is very aware of how fantasy football works, it is driving the popularity, I think, of the NFL at this point in a huge way. And so they're very aware of how fantasy football works. However, not aware enough to take into account the fact that they put 6 teams on a bye in what is the most important week in fantasy football, the final week of most people's regular seasons. So my initial thought was like, man, Steve got fucked by all these buys. But then when I look at it a little bit more closely, I realized Steve fucked himself by having a bunch of players from 2 shitty teams on his roster, that being the Redskins and the Packers. He's got 3 Packers.
1, the Commanders. 2. 7-5-1, bro. 7-5-1.
Yeah. Okay. The Washington Commanders and the Green Bay Packers. 2 shitty teams. One shittier than the other, as John has pointed out. But maybe make better choices, bro.
Yeah, I mean, honestly though, like the only one that in his entire lineup, the only person that I would start that's on bye right now is Christian Watson.
Yeah, I mean, certainly Christian Watson is a startable player. I think you could also argue that Antonio Gibson has been a startable player, but The other three are garbage. Okay. Let's move on. Steve, best of luck to you, buddy. I'm rooting for you.
He's still got a shot. That's the thing.
He certainly still has a shot. And so we're gonna get into that right now. Okay. The playoffs are here. They are 1 week away, and things could not be more murky in terms of the playoff picture. As we said earlier, there are 7 teams that are on the cusp of the playoffs. Injuries impact these teams in various ways, and we'll kind of get into that as we talk about each of the teams. The name of the game here, the real kind of thing that's got to happen is if you want to make the playoffs for this league this year, and you're one of these 7 teams, these 7 teams are Josh, Alec, Kelly, Bill, Sullivan, Ken, and Steve. If you're one of those teams, the best thing you can do to make the playoffs is win. You just gotta win. If you win, you're more than likely in. So,
As Al
without
Davis
further
says,
ado,
or said, just win, baby.
just win, baby. Without further ado, the roadmap to the playoffs. Josh, if he wins, he's in. If Josh wins, he's the division winner. He wins the House division and is in the playoffs. Bill, in order to, and I should say, if Josh loses, he's still in the playoffs if Bill loses. So I should have put that on there. Bill losing also puts Josh into the playoffs. Bill's got to win. If Bill wins and Josh loses, he is in the playoffs. If Bill loses, he's fucked. He's out. That's it.
Done. He's smoked.
Yes.
Like his bird.
That's it. Steve wins and Sullivan or Alec loses. Steve can make the playoffs.
Yep.
We'll look at the viability of either of those things happening in a minute. But if Steve wins, Sullivan or Alec loses, he's in the playoffs. Steve loses, he's out. It's over. Sullivan basically win and you're in. Same with Alec, win and you're in. Both of those teams win, they're the 2 wildcard teams. If one of them loses, essentially what they need is either Steve or Alec to lose in order to make the playoffs. And then they got to have more points than the team that lost. It is likely that will happen. So for both Alec and Peter, if they lose, they need to be watching Steve and Alec's their games, because that is going to be the deciding factor for them. They just need one of them to lose in order for them to make the playoffs.
Yep.
Ken, similar to Josh, it is a win and you are in the playoffs situation for Ken Hoffman. Oh, what an unlikely road to playoff glory for our beloved brother-in-law, Ken Hoffman, who gave up on this league long ago. Probably is not watching this, has totally forgotten that this is all going on, but is kind enough to check his lineup every week and set it.
Yep. Yeah. Which
he's got a real shot at make the playoffs. So he's just got to win. Kelly, basically in the same situation that Bill is in. She needs Ken to lose, her to win, and she is in the playoffs. So a real exciting week 14, John. Any takeaways from this?
Just win, baby. Just win, baby. That's all you gotta do.
Win.
We didn't go over the fact that if I win, then I and Ken loses, or Ken wins, then I get league's best record.
Yes, I didn't feel the need to include that, but sure.
But
Why don't you discuss that?
I mean, I think it'd be better discussed is Ken gonna lose by more than double the amount of points he puts up? I think that's completely possible.
It's possible. All right, let's dive into some of these matchups for this week. And talk about some of these teams. It's an exciting scenario. Like I'm really, I'm glad it came down to this. There's only 3 teams that are locked out of the playoffs right now. And being one of these teams, I'm glad there's something interesting to watch. So coming up in week 14, probably the premier matchup of the week. And actually, sorry, let me pull up the, well, why don't we each pick a premier matchup of the week that we want to discuss?
I mean, for me, it's 100%. It is the early favorite in the season, someone you crown as one of the upper echelon teams that Ken and I took issue with, but ultimately like has shown up at crucial times, and has wide swings in point scores each week. But that is the Alpha Peters, who's going up against the former champion, the defending champion of San Diego Web Surfers, the person crowned champion by our father Charlie Rose at the beginning of the playoffs last year. That's the defining matchup for me. I think that is.
Oh, I think that's
you win and you're in.
Unquestionably, it's a big matchup for both teams. Both teams, could. Both teams need to win, and they get in. And I think, unfortunately, both teams battling, some issues here. So let's talk about Josh first.
Yeah. Yep.
Josh, the injuries are mounting.
I mean,
it should Lamar Jackson.
I think it's important to point out that, like, to this point, Josh has scored the 4th lowest amount of points on the season.
Yep. But has hung around.
And he's hung around. He's 7-6.
Yep.
He scored the 4th lowest. He's had the 2nd lowest points against, which really helps him. The 1st lowest being Ken, yet Ken is also 7-6. So both teams benefiting, and the division leaders at the moment. But Josh's team, a lot of potential there. They just haven't all hit on the same week, really. So we'll see if we can get that, if he can get that this week, despite Lamar Jackson being out.
Yeah. So the Lamar Jackson injury, obviously huge. It'll be interesting to see what happens with the 3 running backs that he has in his lineup. So I think Harris, it sounds like, is going to play. Mixon, I think, is going to play at this point.
Full participant in practice today, is from what I saw.
So seems like he's trending in the right direction. And then Swift also should play.
Yeah, I think he's fine too. I think he was.
He is likely undergoing some maintenance after the injury earlier in the season. So I would imagine he plays.
Harris too. I think he's fine too. Like, he had the same injury last week, but
yes, Harris also doing some maintenance, I believe. So hopefully all 3 of those running backs start for this game in particular. The Alpha Peters versus the San Diego Web Surfers. It seems like it might really rest on. The one big game in here is, well, there's 2, I guess. One is going to be that Thursday night game, and seeing how the Derek Carr, Devontae Adams thing shakes out. That's what I would be most concerned about if I were Josh, is the fact that if Derek Carr is going to have a hot game, it's really going to require Devontae Adams to have a big game.
I like the play though.
it
I
might be
think-
good. Maybe it neutralizes a little bit, right?
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
let's see.
I think it's kind of a good move there on his part.
It could neutralize a little bit.
Yep.
Some of what
Yeah.
Devontae's doing.
If Derek Carr is a really bad game, then yeah, Devontae's also gonna have probably a sub double digit game, so we
I,
could see that. And then, I mean,
I don't know. I do think like Devontae he's had two sub double digit games all year,
and how,
and
I mean,
Derek
Derek Carr,
Carr generally hanging around. I mean, he's been okay.
that New Orleans game is the same game that Devontae had
Yes, yeah.
7 points.
So,
So yeah,
I mean,
it might not be as big as that, but I think he might be able to neutralize it a little bit. What's interesting to me on this side, on Peter's side, is the Dak Prescott play. He's got Tua. Tua might be a little banged up, but quarterbacks against Houston have been terrible. I mean, besides Deshaun Watson last week, quarterbacks just don't need to throw on against Houston, and having both Pollard and Zeke on that team, they're probably gonna run 40 times in a game.
yeah.
And so will Dak Prescott be able to get, either the yardage or the touchdowns? I mean, he's been throwing, if you pull it up, I mean, he's had 3 touchdowns, 2, 2, 3, 2, 1. Since he's been back, it's been lights out as far as touchdowns go. Does he get 2 touchdowns against Houston? Maybe. I doubt 3 though. 3 seems unlikely. Do they need to put up 250 passing yards? I doubt it.
Probably not.
Has Houston given up 250 passing yards? And given up is like I don't know if that's the right word or the right phrase there, because they just they don't get thrown on.
So I think you're right. That's an interesting matchup there, and I could see it working out in. Well, it could be tough for the Alpha Peters to put it.
Ultimately, I like both the wide receiver matchups in this game. I mean, AJ Brown versus Devontae Adams. AJ Brown's been on a tear lately, so that's gonna be great. Keenan Allen came back strong last week.
I would probably
more of that. Tyreek Hill though, with Waddle being potentially injured or at least limited, boy, you could see Hill. I mean, the same game too. They're playing each other, so we could see a shootout.
So that was the other game
Allen
I was
versus
gonna.
Hill. Yeah,
that was the other game I was gonna point to, is that Miami Chargers game, that Sunday night game. I think is gonna be kind of one of the tipping points for this matchup. Just in terms of the type of night that Allen has and the type of night that Eckler and Tyreek have. Some of it's gonna depend on the lead that Josh is able to build up earlier in the day, just because most of his players are going to play around noon that day. But if Josh has a sizable lead, something somewhat significant going into Sunday night, it could be a really fun Sunday night matchup.
For sure. I mean, so here's what I'm hoping. All right. So here's what I'm hoping is that. All right, so we go into Sunday night and it's like pretty close, right? Because he has the Chargers. All right, so it's not very close, right? But we get into a shootout between Allen and Hill, right? It's a huge game, back and forth, back and forth. They end up very close, right? And then as you notice, Pete still needs a kicker. So Pete picks up Arizona's kicker, and then it comes down to a battle of the
Folk versus the Arizona kicker. The problem is though, if it's close coming out of Sunday night, Peter also has Ramondre Stevenson.
Oh man, okay, then not that close, not that close. I don't know. I guess we'll see. I
Yeah,
guess
so
we'll see.
it's gonna be tough I mean, this is a tough game for Josh to win, and I
Mhm.
don't kind of envy the position that Josh is gonna be in, uh, having to
Yeah.
have such an enormous lead early in the day. Um, because
Yeah.
you always want to be the person who's kind of building up stats throughout the day and not the person who put everything up early in the day and just has to watch that
Oh
lead get chipped
man.
away at.
Josh is gonna be doing
So
mental math all afternoon, evening,
yeah,
being like, okay, I can give if Eckler gets 30 and Hill only gets 17, then I
it,
could, yeah.
it's going to be tough for him.
Yeah.
All right, let's move off this game real quick. Let's pick one other game to kind of highlight, and then we'll move on. But I think so. That's the big matchup, right? San
I
Diego
think
Web
so. I think
Surfers,
so.
the Alpha Peters. The other big matchup that I would point to is Kelly versus Steve. Um,
Yeah.
Two other teams playing for a playoff spot, both in similar situations. They need a win plus a little help to get in. Um, and Kelly should win this game. We went over Steve's team just now and kind of the situation that he's found himself in. Kelly's in a good spot here. I don't see any reason why Kelly should lose this game, but there's always a chance, what do you think, John? What's the roadmap for Steve to victory here over Kelly?
So I think he's gonna need a 30-point game from Hertz. He's gonna need
Which he'll
a
probably get.
yeah, that's totally viable. And then I
Mhm.
think he needs just another monster game from Jamar Chase, right? I mean, a sort of like it was a good game last week, but I don't think he scored a touchdown. I think we need to see
Mhm.
that like reemergence that like, hey, I'm actually back. My hip's fine. I'm in. We need one of those massive, massive games from him, which doesn't mean that Higgins can't also put up a 100-yard day, right? I mean,
Mhm.
I think Cleveland and Cincinnati can put up 55 points, right? I think that's not out of the realm of possibility to have a high scoring affair in that game. Because
Mhm.
I don't think he's gonna get it from, I mean, Latavius Murray, I mean, he's not their passing back, right? Like in
Yep.
Denver. So if Denver's down, I think you see more of
It's going to be tough.
Mike
I,
Boone.
I
Uh,
don't I don't foresee a big day for Latavius Murray.
and Michael Carter is supposed to be back. So
Yep.
we'll see. I think I
Don't
mean,
foresee a
Knight,
big day for Bam Knight.
uh, as we saw
Knight's
the
been
Zark Knight,
fine.
we saw the Zark Knight rise last week.
Yeah, there you
But
go.
I read that one.
Knight
That
has
was on
been
Reddit.
fine.
Yeah.
He's been catching some passes too, which I like to see, but I don't Michael Carter
Yeah.
being healthy kind of
And then
changes the playbook there.
maybe
But
quietly you get a big game from DJ Moore. I mean, like that's a dart throw for sure. There's no one better on his bench than
mhm,
DJ Moore right now. But DJ Moore had a great game before the bye. He had 20 fantasy points, 103
mhm,
yards, one touchdown. He's been able to put up points, and he's done it when Sam Darnold started, right? He did it like, was it PJ Walker? Like he's been able to do this without, now that the bad man Baker Mayfield's gone. Uh
mhm.
we might be able to see a big game from DJ Moore. If he gets a 20-point day from DJ Moore, I think there's a good shot that he could win this without a tight end. But looking over at Kelly's team, it looks good. I think Kelly's team looks really good right now. Uh, you know, Arizona coming out of a bye. I think a lot of teams are gonna play better coming out of the bye. James Conner's healthier. Our Marquise Brown is healthier, coming off that injury. He had a great game last week or the week before the bye. Not a great game,
So-
but 8 targets, so that's pretty good. 8 targets isn't bad. I mean, I think that
8 targets is good. I worry about the Arizona stack. I don't know that that's going to be the most productive thing for Kelly.
they're 4 and 8. I
Going
was very
against
shocked. I was very
going
shocked.
against New England, they're on Monday night. I guess we'll
At
see,
home,
especially
yeah.
just given kind of some of the turmoil that that team has faced over the last few weeks. I don't know that I trust that Arizona stack, but she should get a serviceable amount of points out of it. You want to know something funny that I just fucking realized about Steve's team? So Steve, man, you get the most interesting team. Steve has, how many roster spots do we have, John?
15.
16? 16, right?
9 starting and 7 bench, I believe.
So 16 roster spots.
Plus 2 IR.
Okay, so 16 roster spots plus two IR spots. So that's 18 total kind of spots here. Of those 18 total spots that we've got in the league, I'm pretty sure Steve's team is made up of about 7, maybe 8 actual NFL teams, which is a ridiculously small number. So Steve's got 3 Bengals, 3 Packers, 3 Bengals, 3 Packers, 2 Eagles, 2 Commanders, 2 New York Giants spots, 2 Denver spots, and then a Tampa Bay spot with Tom Brady and a Carolina and a Vegas spot.
He's got 10. I think I count 10.
Is it 10 teams? There's a lot of overlap on Steve's team. I really enjoy it. It makes it easy. You get to watch all your players in like 3 games, which is helpful.
I mean, I understand why he's stashing Wandell Robinson. I mean,
I do too.
But you could definitely cut like Logan Thomas right now and Tunyon and
well, he can't pick
but he
anybody
can't
up.
pick anyone up.
I just really like going down the line there. I was like, man, Steve, like, when are these games going to be played? And then I started to realize, like, well, a lot of these people are in the same game, and then like he doesn't have that many games he needs to watch, and then like, holy shit, a lot of these people playing the same team. So yeah, great, I love it.
I mean,
all right,
New York's playing Philly this week, so like,
but yeah, I know.
It's one game. That's like 7 players.
I know. It's great. Okay. So yeah, like if Green Bay played Washington and New York played Philly, Steve would have more than half his team playing in 2 games.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go back. And so John, let's make some picks here.
All right.
Let's talk a little bit, quickly about what we see as the most reasonable, because I think we agree on what the most reasonable outcome for the playoffs are. But then let's make some picks and see if, reason prevails. So
logic will prevail.
Yes, exactly. So I think the most reasonable playoff picture, despite all the kind of formulation that we talked about before, which I'll pull back up here to show everybody, would be Sullivan. So I think, starting at the top, I think the most reasonable thing, and I hate to say this, but just based on who they're playing and the situation going into both games, I think it's that Bill wins the Hallis division.
Yeah,
That
yeah. I mean, I think it's certainly possible at this point. I don't think you see the same fluke, not fluke, but I don't think you see the same 60-point day that Bill saw last week. That certainly was a fluke. Charlie put up a respectable amount of points given his team, his roster composition, but I don't
so
think it's 60. So I do think Bill wins, and I think, yeah, unfortunately, Josh loses.
Josh has the tougher matchup, and I think it's reasonable to think he might lose. So
And would
Bill
need Bill
wins,
to win, right? Or Bill to lose too, which I don't.
yes,
Yeah.
which would be a tough ask.
Man,
So I
that'd
think
be. Well, wait.
that would be
you
an
say-
epic collapse.
Yeah, yeah. So if Bill loses, yeah, he's out. And then,
If
yeah.
Bill loses, he's out. He's 6-8, and even if Josh loses, Josh would be 7-7 to make the playoffs. If Bill loses, this is an epic collapse of, like we'll be talking about this for years. The
Yeah.
Ditka, let's jump down to the Ditka division. The Ditka division, I think the most reasonable outcome here, in the same fashion as the Hallis division, is that Kelly makes the playoffs.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
A Kelly win plus a Ken loss gets her in the playoffs. Kelly should win her matchup. Ken likely is going to lose his matchup. So I think the most likely, and if those two things happen, that leaves the wild card spots. And the wild card spots are going to be filled by either Peter Sullivan, Alec, or Steve. And I think, just based on some of the matchups, the most likely outcome, and especially if Kelly beats Steve, the most likely outcome here is that the playoffs are you, John Rose, Peter Kramer, Bill Boylan. So wait.
Yeah, no, if
yes,
those things happen, right? If Josh loses and Bill wins and Kelly wins and Ken loses, then
Yes.
then the playoff spots are going to go to Peter Sullivan, and then the wild card spots are going to Peter Sullivan, and then it doesn't matter whether Alec wins or not. Alec's in.
Yes, because he has more points.
He loses, he's in, and because he's 100 points more ahead than Steve, then I don't see that being, and Kelly having beaten Steve, I don't see that. Yeah.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. So the most reasonable outcome is Sullivan makes the playoffs in the wild card spot. Alec makes the playoffs in a wild card spot. Then Kelly wins the Ditka division. Bill wins the Hallis division. But there are some other, possibilities. And actually, I didn't include this in the thing, but there is a way that Bill makes the playoffs. Even if Bill wins and Josh wins, there is a way that Bill makes the playoffs, but it requires him to score about 60 more points than Alec this week.
More, yeah, 70. Sorry,
70-ish, 65-ish more points, and for Alec to lose. So I think that's unlikely. So, the playoffs are, while the picture is pretty murky, I think there is a clear, the haze is clearing. There should be a reasonable outcome here in which we know the top 6 teams fairly early, I think, on the day on Sunday. As the games kind of start to shake out, we'll probably get a sense of where this is headed. The only other thing to think about here is if Ken beats Kramer, and if you beat me, what you would have to do, which there are no guarantees in life, John. And if you don't believe that I'm in the locker room hyping up the Staleys this week to play your ass, you don't know what's coming, because let me tell you, the boys are getting hyped this week.
Oh yeah.
Tyler Huntley, he's leading the charge, and we're a formidable opponent. We've got a few big wins under our belt lately, so I just want you to feast your eyes on that roster. I want you to feel the fear that Brandon Ayuk brings to your heart, the fear that Gabe Davis brings to your heart.
Christian McCaffrey is going to take 80% of his touch
in your boots.
First off, you don't even have a tight end. You don't even have a tight end to play.
I'm picking one up. Don't worry. I got plenty of money. Then there was another veiled shot at Steve. Sorry, Steve. All right. Where I was going with that is, if Ken somehow beats Peter Kramer and you somehow beat me, you would walk away with the 1 seed and the crown for the regular season.
That would be very nice, considering it seems like Peter wins every single accolade in this goddamn league. We've Survivor, he's won for a 3rd time in a row. I've never seen
we don't even need to talk about it.
We might not even do it.
We're not celebrating you, Peter.
I'm like, we already renamed it the Peter Kramer Survivor pool game or whatever last year. I think we just fucking retire that game next year.
Yeah, we might have to.
Because what's the point?
Yep. All right. I think that's it, guys. We got a exciting week of football. It all starts tonight. And I'm excited to see how it shakes out. I think I hope we're in for some surprises here. As much as the outcomes seem certain right now, anything can happen in the RTFL, as last week showed us. Any parting thoughts before we head into the playoffs, John?
I mean, good luck, Godspeed, everyone. I'm super excited to see how this plays out. I think what's nice is everyone's got some something to play for right now, whether it be the spoilers, whether it be to make it into the playoffs, pride. Don't forget that winner of the toilet bowl gets $50. So
that's right.
You get something there, so don't just completely check out.
Or do
cash, or do whatever you guys want to do. Whatever it is, but just please set your lineups if you can.
Yep.
Sorry, Steve. Steve.
Oh, boy. What a fucking week. All right. For John, Brother Rose, I am Michael Rose. This has been the RTF show.
Logic will prevail.